Now, there were two bits of high street news this week. Two companies, in fact, each announcing plans to beef up their investments in high streets. One is McDonald's, the other is Waitrose, two perhaps different market segments, but both thinking there may be opportunities in the high street. Now, some opportunities may be, but what kind of life, what kind of future is there for town centres and high streets in this country? It's an old question, not altogether resolved. Some areas far too run down, giving adjacent communities a sense of decline. With a newish government, keener than any on building, what are those who think about high streets thinking right now? Well, we have two of them. Nicholas Boys-Smith, fellow at the Create Streets think tank. Cathy Parker, who's the research lead for the government's High Streets Task Force, which has supported 150 different town centre development projects over the last 5 years. Cathy, first of all, can you tell us whether there is any new thinking, what is the thinking on high streets, or whether we're just stuck in a somewhat depressing picture of slow decline?
Well, I hope there's going to be a really some new thinking on the high street. And I don't know if it's new thinking, but we get some things that have been shown to work, get that rolled out so that more places have got a chance. The work we've been doing through the High Street Task Force is really what it's done. It's been giving local people and local businesses a voice and a platform to air the issues that they think are most concerning on their local high street, and then come up with projects, not expensive projects, not big regeneration schemes, but just things that make a difference, things that matter: pollution, crime, opening a coffee shop because there isn't a coffee shop open at the time when people want to have coffee.
Right.
Really simple things like that. So it's about local partnerships, working with the council, identifying what the main barriers and problems are, and getting on with solving them.
Where's done it well?
Well, we've worked all over the country, and I mean, I think everywhere is making, some quick wins, not necessarily that's
But
really
give us the
being
poster
noticed for
child. The
everyone.
poster child.
Okay.
Yeah, come on.
All right. Well, I mean, somewhere like Horncastle in East Lindsey, you might never have been there. It's quite a way to go. But what they've done, I've been really impressed with, because they've opened up the town to young people. And that is crucial. This is they've got such an important role in the future, and they're very passionate about their local high streets and town centres, and they don't get a chance. So there was a takeover, a teenage market takeover in Horncastle, and that's actually grown the sort of pipeline of new entrepreneurs coming into the high street. A couple of those kids have taken on units, and they're trading. We need to get that going in far more places.
Well, that sounds good. Let's go to Nicholas Boys-Smith. Nick, you've been chair of the advisory board for the government's Office for Place, as well as your role at Create Streets. And what do you feel is the secret to getting high streets to work, town centres to work?
Well, yeah, it's interesting you say both town centres and high streets. In a way, that's the first point. Is actually think about the town centre or the neighbourhood centre, not just the high street. That's not saying the high streets don't matter. And if I was to try and answer your question in 9 words, I'd say easy to reach, pleasant to visit, and not just shops. So people need to be able to get there. That will be different in different places. In a village or in a market town, that might mean there's good parking, but probably not, definitely not actually on the high street itself. In a town or in a city, it'll almost certainly be far more focus on walking, cycling, good public transport. Your typical street can take far more people by walking and by cycling than it can.
Have you got a poster child, Nick, for where you think has done it very well? You can't say Horncastle. We've had that one.
No. I'm aware of Horncastle and I've been meaning to visit, but I've not been there, so I won't. Well, I think the one that's often cited, I think very, very reasonably, is Altrincham in Trafford in Greater Manchester, where a neighbourhood plan about 10 years ago, part pedestrianised, planted street trees, revamped a covered market, made, I think, quite modest loans to independent shops, and went from, this is from memory, I think about 35% empty shops about a decade ago to way less now. So I think that's a classic example. Another good one, actually internationally, if I may, because it's just dated for so many years, is Stroget in Copenhagen, which was pedestrianised about 40, 50 years ago now, and from something that was just a parking lot and to dying, has just totally revolutionised and has actually led the urban revival of central Copenhagen over the last generation.
That's really interesting. Cathy, I want to ask you a question. In fact, it was one of Nick's colleagues at Create Streets that suggested this, that it's much easier to make these things work if you have one single owner. So the point is made that shopping centres can curate the facilities there. You get the right mix. Whereas if you have 12 different landlords, you might end up with no cafe or too many cafes or no gym. Or is it about ownership? Is that a route we should take it down, as to trying to find one person who's in charge?
Well, I definitely get that it's easier when one person's in charge, but it's boring. Our town centres, that the evolution of our towns, we're not really on that sort of one estate model, and you can tell when you're walking around a shopping centre. So the curation is good for some of the basics, and there's nothing to stop people working together in partnership to have a team approach to the offer and to the standards on the high street, without there being sort of one owner and one person deciding what's going to be there and what isn't. The trouble with that is that you just don't get the innovation and the creativity, and we really need this, because our places have to provide some identity to us, and attachment. Yeah,
that I think we really understand that the geography, the physical geography, and the sense of community are often very much bound together. Look, we do need to leave it there. Nick Boy-Smith and Cathy Parker, thank you both very much.